key documents. You may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll now deal with the policy regarding measures that were directed at specific groups. And I would like to start by referring to groups designated in that policy by the Khmer Rouge. I will refer to document D246/10. This is a civil party who resided in Preveng, and I will quote two extracts. The French ERN is 00381128. In English, 00373230, and in Khmer, 00381020, and the following pages for the second extract. This civil party says the following, and I quote, Anka distributed blue and white crammers to everyone, and we waited for 1 day and boarded a Chinese military truck to go to the railway station. We boarded the train at night and traveled over long hours. When we arrived in Bakan district, it was nightfall. We received food when we boarded the train. And a question is put to the civil party by the co-investigating judge, who wanted to know, who told the civil party to talk about the blue and white crammers. And the civil party said the following: the persons who received blue and white crammers were people from the east of Cambodia who had to be killed. We were the target, considered as the enemy, because we were close to the Vietnamese border and considered as such as the friends of the Vietnamese. The Khmer Rouge distributed crammers for the purpose of identifying and knowing the persons who had to be killed. End of quote. This is another statement by civil party D22/33. This civil party resided in Takeo, and this civil party talks about Buddhists. The French ERN is 00901477. In English, the ERN is 00332196, and in Khmer it is 00279767. And the civil party states as follows, and I quote, after the Khmer New Year, the Phnom Chna Pagoda became a prison where people who were regarded as enemies, open the parenthesis, the enemy of Angkar, close the parenthesis, were tortured. Since there were many monks at Phnom Chna Pagoda, they were again summoned to come forward for re-education. Angkar forced us, myself and others, to stop being monks. End of quote. I will now refer to Civil Party D22/3675, small a. This person was a charm, and that person was at the time in Kampong Chhnam. The ERN in French is 00894118. In English, 00891063, and in Khmer, 00588456. This civil party states as follows, and I quote, religion, tradition, and the customs of Muslim Khmers were forbidden at all cost by the Khmer Rouge. It was forbidden to practice religion and to worship God. They forced us to eat pork. They forced the women to cut their hair very short, and they forbade us to speak Cham, and they destroyed the plank we used for worship. They went into the homes of all the Chams to look for the Quran and other books written in Cham in order to destroy them. They looted mosques and transformed them into warehouses. End of quote. I refer to Civil Party D246/15, who was at Persat and who refers to the situation of the Khmer Krom. The ERN in French is 00426390. In English, 00388620. In Khmer, 00385135. This civil party says the following, and in response to a question put by the co-investigating judge. Why were you arrested in September 1977? Answer. Because at the time, the Khmer Rouge started spying on inhabitants in order to flush out Khmers who were of Kampuchea Krom origin and accuse them of being affiliated to the Vietnamese. I was arrested and sent to the detention center situated in Via village. End of quote. I will now refer to the statement of Civil Party D22/2011. This civil party resided in Persat, and the civil party is referring to the situation of former soldiers of Lon Nol. The ERN in French is 009000237. In English, 00893689. In Khmer, 00541770. This civil party states as follows, and I quote, during the rice transplanting season, soldiers and militias of the Khmer Rouge monitored constantly inhabitants who were deported to Bakhot village because they were considered as 17 April people. They continued declaring that those who were civil servants, traders, and students had to tell the truth in order to be able to go back to their previous jobs. As time went on, the former civil servants left and never returned. End of quote. I'll now quote from D404/2/3.2's statement.
The President, Counsel, could you please hold on, and Counsel for Mr. Kisampon, you may now proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is a brief objection. In any case, it is a question for my learned friend. The document she is referring to is one that we have looked for in the case file, and we do not find it. It has an E3 number. We do not find it in the closing order, nor do we find it in the annex to the list of parties, the co-prosecutors, and the other parties. So this is a new document, and we request that the lead co-lawyer should not be allowed to use this document in this hearing. Lead co-lawyer, I will request that someone should find out whether it's on our list. As most civil party applications, they do not yet have E3 numbers. I believe that this document is on our list, and if you allow me to cross-check, Mr. President, I can tell you for sure in a few minutes.
Je peux peut-être continuer en attendant.
I can perhaps continue with my presentation while we wait for the check to be carried out.
The President, indeed, you may proceed to another document, please.
Merci.
Thank you.
Pardon, j'ai un petit doute.
Pardon me. I don't know if my learned friend was objecting to D22/2011. Counsel Guisset, no, it was the other document. Thank you, says Elisabeth Simoneau-Faure. I shall continue with another document on the policy on the treatment of targeted groups. The objective of the policy was to abolish all differences among people. I will quote from D22/164. ERN in French is 00898349. English 00414861, and in Khmer 00369040. I shall read two short passages from this document, and I quote: "At the time, the Khmer Rouge considered the Cham as enemy number one. The Khmer Rouge intended to send the Cham people to their deaths through famine and disease, as these spread throughout the villages." Further on, the Civil Party adds, "Around the end of 1967, the Khmer Rouge put an end to religion, and this consolidated a very clear targeting of religious groups. The Khmer Rouge had prohibited the Cham people from praying, from speaking their native language, and prohibited all Cham customs, which included certain modes of dress. Those who refused to obey by the Khmer Rouge orders were sent for execution, particularly the women who did not comply with the code of wearing their hair." I will now turn to D22/3849, English ERN 00571043, and in Khmer 00863995. This civil party describes the situation of the civil party's family. The civil party writes, and I quote, "The only reason they were all executed was stemming from the fact that we were Cambodians of Chinese ethnicity." I will now quote from D22/932A, 932 small a. "The civil party is from the Tungpun minority and was residing in Ratanakiri. The ERN in French is 00898367. English 00903179, and Khmer 00532129. The civil party states the following. Open quotation. Before 1975, I was living in Chi, in the Lumpat district, in the Ratanakiri province. There were hundreds of families who belonged to the Tungpun minority. Members of the minority believe in protective spirits as well in the power of where their ancestors are buried. The chiefs were Khat Pren and Khatun, who were responsible for praying to the protective spirits. Following the 17th of April and their arrival to power, the Khmer Rouge forced them to abandon their religious beliefs, and the two tribe leaders were sent for re-education by Angkor. They since disappeared. Ever since then, the people from the village are no longer able to practice their religion, and they no longer maintain the small huts to pray to the spirits, and all of the burial sites of their ancestors have been destroyed. I will now quote from D22/489 small a, ERN 003691, English 00891271, and in Khmer 00577131. The civil party is a member of the Jarai minority. The civil party writes as follows. After the 17th of April 1975, the Khmer Rouge forbid people from believing in animism, and they forbade the Jarai and Chumpin, the chief of the cooperative, from ordering people to no longer hold such religious beliefs or ceremonies. I will now quote from D22/1651 small a. The ERN in French is 00898045. English 0090322220. Khmer 00583194. The civil party was living in Kampong Cham at the time. The civil party writes as follows, and I quote, all religious practices and beliefs were forbidden. Further on, the civil party adds, I was not aware of the execution of Buddhist monks. However, I was aware of the fact that the Khmer Rouge forced them to defrock and sent away. I will now quote from D22/2014 small a. The ERN in French is 00908105. Khmer 000965. The civil party raises the topic of the Buddhist religion. At Damnak Payon Pagoda, I did not see any statues of the Buddha. The pagoda was destroyed. I heard people saying that the pagoda had been transformed into a prison. Civil Party D22 slash 3518 small a, ERN in French is 00898089, English 00856209, and Khmer 00585460. The Civil Party states as follows. The Khmer Rouge forced us to eat pork, and if we refused to do so, they would kill us. Personally, I forced myself to consume it. The Khmer Rouge always said that if any of the Cham people refused to eat pork, they would be killed. Civil Party D22 slash 3532 small a, French ERN 00891055, English 008510 K43, writes as follows. Samrong Pagoda in Tukmeyas was destroyed and turned into a canteen. There was a section that was converted for raising pork. The Cham were forced to eat pork. The Quran was destroyed. Religion was strictly prohibited, pending a death penalty. I will now raise one final document that shows the policy of targeting specific groups. The document refers to soldiers and officials of the Lon Nol regime. I will quote from D22/3. The Civil Party was living in Siem Reap. At the time, the ERN in French is 00632663, English 00156856, and in Khmer 00157098. The Civil Party states as follows. On the 17th of April 1975, officials from the Siem Reap province were summoned to a meeting that was held at City Hall. At the meeting, people were told that a certain number of officials would have to undergo a 3-day training in order to welcome Samdek Norodom Sihanouk. They did not need to pack anything. We never saw them return. At the time, I was a mechanic. I fixed motorbikes. I was not official, therefore I was not asked to attend the meeting. The officials were taken away in order to be killed because I saw many corpses in the trenches of Paray Kortla, which had become a battlefield for the Khmer Rouge and Lon Nol combatants. On the same topic, I will quote from D22, or rather D246/13. Here in French is 00424100. English 00387500, and in Khmer 00385096. The Civil Party was living in Posat. During the era, the Civil Party was interviewed by the co-investigating judges. Question: was your father an army official for Lon Nol? Answer: he was a soldier for Samdek Eo, and then he became a Lon Nol soldier, and that is why the Khmer Rouge killed him. My father was not the only one to have been executed. There were other people who were killed in the exact same manner, simply because they could not escape their predicament. Again, on the same topic of the targeting of officials and soldiers from the Lon Nol regime. The ERN in French is 00 67 68 58, English 00 88 44 72, and in Khmer 00 54 04 48. The civil party, which is D22/1919, was living in Pursat at the time and says the following. Approximately 1 month later, I went to the village of Tulprom in the district of Mon Ressay in the province of Battambang. Following our settlement there, likely in June 1975, my father, Van Nan, was arrested. He was executed for no specific reason. As far as I'm concerned, he was killed by the Khmer Rouge. The cadre came to take him away. I do not know who the cadre was. To my knowledge, they had learned that my father was a police officer during the Lon Nol regime. In fact, he was. Later on, I learned that my father, Van Nan, had been executed at the foot of a mountain located in the Bakan district in the province of Pursat. I wish to refer to Civil Party D246/14. ERN in French is 00424111, English 0387497, and in Khmer 005092 are the last numbers. The Civil Party talks about arrests, and in response to a question put to the Civil Party by the co-investigating judge, question, sir, do you know why families of the Kampuchea Krom were arrested? Response, I knew that that specific family had been accused of being Yuen. In other words, they were accused of being Vietnamese. I will refer now to D22/2066. English ERN 00890971, and in Khmer 00534636, French 00894013. The Civil Party was living in the province of Svay Rieng at the time, and the Civil Party says the following. The Khmer Rouge had carried out investigations on people who were from Svay Rieng. They were taken and then killed. They did not allow anyone to survive because they said that the people from Svay Rieng were Vietnamese. And lastly, and this brings me to a conclusion of this particular policy, I will refer to D246/7. ERN in French is 00426371, English 00384413, and in Khmer 00373704. In response to a question put by the investigating judge relative to the Civil Party's brother, who was a monk and arrested by the Khmer Rouge. Question: how do you know that your elder brother Long Vien was being taken to be killed? Answer: I heard that he was an intellectual who criticized the Khmer Rouge frequently, and that's exactly why he was taken to be killed. Your Honors, that brings me to conclusion on my presentation of key documents on that particular policy. I shall now comment on the document that we previously set aside, and that was the subject of the Khieu Samphan defense objection. I'm told that D 404/2/3.2 is on all of our lists, including the list that dates back to the 4th of March, which has since received a new number, which is D22/3820a. If I can very briefly comment on this document, the ERN in French is 00899194, in English 00607001, and in Khmer 00615756. This particular civil party states the following. My father came to the hospital in order to see my mother. Her body was still warm. She was killed in 1977. They were accused of being a capitalist or a feudalist. My father was from China. My mother was also of Chinese background. My father was killed because he was Chinese and because he was wealthy. All of the cadres and the militiamen lived in the same neighborhood as my parents, and they knew that they were Chinese. This brings me to a conclusion on the policy of targeted groups and leads me to the presentation of key documents on forced marriage.
Encore une fois, je vais...
Once again, I shall raise the objective of the regulation of marriage as has been developed by the co-prosecutor this morning. I will talk about its implementation, and I will once again refer to the civil parties who shed light on the fact that marriage had to be controlled and regulated by the party authorities, in other words, by Angkor. I will begin by quoting from D22/503, ERN in French is 00916922, English 00891273, and in Khmer 00496605. The civil party stated as follows: at the end of 1978, I was forced to marry Comrade Seng Han. Angkor had proposed the marriage. Angkor had agreed to this. Angkor organized the ceremony, and that is where we exchanged our vows. The civil party D22/506, ERN in French 00893515, English 00891274, 00496650-51 states, and I quote, "Fortunately, I was spared of forced marriage. However, I could not escape it for a third time, because Mr. Jung wasn't the one who organized the marriage, but somebody else. Indeed, Mr. Jung had been arrested and killed by Angkor. He was accused of treason. I will now quote from D22/64 small a. The English ERN is 00894919. ERN in Khmer 00568236. The civil party stated as follows: I could not refuse because Comrade Hon told me that nobody could be spared of the order. She said, and I quote, all women must obey Angkor's orders. If any one of them refused the order, they would be executed. The civil party D22/16 small a, the ERN in French 00881712, English 00853936 to 37, as well as Khmer ERN 005846 to 48, recounts her marriage along with 60 other couples. The civil party states, before the ceremony, the leader delivered a speech. The chief reminded us that we had to make an effort to work to the service of Angkor, and the chief asked all the couples to love each other and to be faithful to Angkor. I was asked to say a few words on behalf of the 60 couples present. I will now turn to several directives and rules issued by Angkor with respect to marriages and the status of those who were forced into marriage. I will quote from E9/32.2.14, ERN in French 00891889, in English 00891888, and in Khmer 00678181. The civil party described that, and I quote, near the end of 1975, I worked at the Ministry of Transportation. One day, the head of the center called everyone to a meeting, and there were approximately 200 people who attended. They worked there, and there were more than 30 women. The president of my region, Mot Pim, read out a directive that came from higher levels. And I remember one specific point, which was, and I quote, as of today, members of S80 can only marry each other. There are limits to these relationships. The words on and bon and other terms of endearment and affection, such as darling, cannot be used. Men who are members of the party can only marry other women belonging to the party. Any previous marriages will not be taken into account. Civil Party D 125/39, French ERN 00272777, English 00225533, and Khmer 00196824. The civil party states as follows. Whereas certain prisoners who were guilty of moral misconduct were held for 3 months, anyone who was single or widowed had to remarry. This was the policy coming from above, from superior levels. End of quote.
Je vais évoquer
I will now deal with Civil Party D189/18, who at the time was working at the Ministry of Social Affairs. The ERN in French is 0034-2208. In English, it is 0034-5228. In Khmer, it is 0034-9555. This civil party states as follows, and I quote, Mrs. Su, my boss, decided with the approval of Ieng Tirith that I had to get married to Vassal. At the time, under the Khmer Rouge regime, it was the officials and the leaders who decided such matters. We could not decide the person with whom we wished to get married. I, for my part, was somewhat attracted to the private secretary of Ieng Tirith, but I could not object to that decision, and in particular, I could not afford to show that I had a relationship with a man, or even to give that impression. I only saw Vassal facially. I refer to Civil Party D 278/2. The ERN in French is 004224. In English, 00400488, and in Khmer 00390296. And this civil party, in response to a question put to him or her by the co-investigating judge, said the following, and I quote, "Nobody could afford to refuse to get married because that was an order by Ankara. However, I do not know what happened to those who objected to that order." The Khmer Rouge had a principle according to which the base people were not authorized to marry the new people. End of quote. And this is a French translation.
une série de déclarations.
I will now refer to a series of statements by civil parties that also show a decisive element regarding the existence of this policy. And these civil parties also show that Ankara directed, organized, and defined those forced marriages. The civil party is D22/139 small a. The ERN in French is 0089834445. In English, it is 00863874 and 75, and in Khmer it is 00580448 and 49. This civil party states as follows, and I quote, "In April 1977, open parenthesis, before the Khmer Rouge New Year, closed brackets, the head of the district of Vantenias, Kampot province, called Chap, came to Toton commune to organize a marriage ceremony at the Tuolpus cooperative. The day before the ceremony, a young chief in the village came to tell each man and woman who had to get married that they absolutely had to attend an assembly in the community refectory, because that was the decision of the district committee. Further down in the statement, the civil party adds as follows. The ceremony started by head of a unit from Priya Semnong village, Sentria Commune district of Sampong Trop. He read the agenda and declared the ceremony open. Open the parentheses and in italics. Anka has a new plan. It has to organize a historic marriage ceremony, and this is the first of a series of events organized by the district, including Bante Mias district. End of quote. Then the unit head called each man and woman by name, one after the other. There were 40 couples in all, 30 young couples and 12 widows and widowers. 12 couples of widows and widowers. Civil Party D22/2074. The ERN is 00894174 in French, 00891040 and 41 in English, and in Khmer 00559294. This is what the civil party states, and I quote, each couple had to exchange their marriage vows one after the other, and they were advised to love one another and to make sure they accomplish the tasks assigned by Anka and to do their best to produce children for Anka. End of quote. The civil party D22/620, ERN in French 00900951, English 00891279 and 80, Khmer 00499824 and 25 states as follows, and I quote, we were only asked to make a commitment by repeating the two words, quote, we have henceforth become husband and wife. We should love one another and make an effort to serve Anka and produce a child for Anka. We must not oppose Anka's instructions. End of quote. Civil Party D22/1291 small a, ERN in French 00893362, in English 00891223, and in Khmer 00584380 and 81. States as follows regarding forced marriages to which she was subjected, and regarding an official who spoke to her. He told me that Anka was going to organize my marriage and that I had to accept Anka's decision. I refused in vain. He told me that I had already finalized agreements with Anka and accepted to respect all Anka's decisions, so I could not refuse. That was during my re-education period. I was in prison accused of betrayal. I was subjected to interrogation sessions. Civil Party D22/1067 small a, ERN in French 00578977, in English 00846968, and Khmer 00578979 and 80 states as follows. Around 1978, or around the middle of 1978, I was forced to get married. I was transferred to Okpekam Phnom Penh to work on a rice field because I had a bad biography. At the time, I was threatened. I was reminded that I had a bad biography. I was told that I was a lazy person and that my parents were working for London. So I had to accept the marriage, otherwise I would be killed. I was very afraid because my parents were 17 April people. Civil Party D22/3818 small a 009121 in English 00853176 and in Khmer 00588796 states as follows. At the time, we were ordered to take an oath and to shake hands, stating before Angkar that we are going to love one another and serve Angkar all our lives. And lastly, Civil Party D22/2976. The ERN in French is 00894115, in English 00891042, and Khmer 00559320. Uses one of the terms referred to this morning by the prosecutor regarding forced marriages and states as follows, and I quote, "That notwithstanding, I was forced to accept that arrangement. I had been instructed not to object to Angkar's decisions because Angkar was our parents." End of quote. Mr. President, I am done with the existence of policies, and I will stop here. Thank you.
President, thank you. I would like now to give the floor to the prosecution to present their key documents on the role of the accused. You may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, our colleagues will be here shortly to present documents on the role of non-chair. In a few minutes, in a couple of minutes, they should be here. We were somewhat taken unawares by the speed with which the civil party lead co-lawyers did their presentation and ahead of time.
Simon King, thank you, Mr. President. As we only have 15 minutes left for the adjournment, and the presentation that we wish to do on the role of the accused Nuon Chea may last longer than today's time. And I'd like to get the discretion of your chamber and the President if we can do it tomorrow or we cannot do it now. President, actually, we already give the floor to the prosecution so that you can present the key documents related to the role of the accused. And of course, we need to expedite the proceeding. And it would be of a benefit if the prosecution side can conclude it tomorrow, and then the floor can be given to the defense so that they can respond to all your presentation of those documents early next week. Prosecution. Thank you, Mr. President.
បាទជាបឋម
Once again, good afternoon, Mr. President, Your Honors, and everyone in and around the courtroom. I will present some documents in relation to the role, the authority of the accused Nuon Chea. At the same time, I seek Mr. President's leave to present the document on screen. And as informed by my international colleague, due to the early conclusion of the presentation by the lead co-lawyer, we have not prepared ourselves for the presentation this afternoon. The documents that we present is in relation to his role as a member of the Standing Committee of the CPK. My colleague and I actually presented already the minute of the meetings of the Standing Committee. That is in the document hearing that we held earlier. For that reason, I do not wish to present those documents again. And then I will present other minutes of the meeting of the Standing Committee. The first document is the minutes of the meeting of the Standing Committee. President, prosecution, please wait. Defense counsel for Nuon Chea, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I might be mistaken, but I'm not sure if we received beforehand the list of documents that the prosecution is intending to present in respect of Nuon Chea's role. I don't think we have.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, il est...
Mr. President, it is possible. I may have to cross-check. It is possible that the list of documents have not been communicated in advance. However, this was a policy that was practiced merely out of courtesy and not obligation. Therefore, we would beg for the Chamber's indulgence and permit us to continue and allow us to convey the list of documents after the end of this hearing. Thank you.
President, Judge Civil Cartwright, please take the floor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, President. The President has asked me to indicate that the prosecutors may begin their next stage of their presentation in the morning, while the Chamber acknowledges that providing the list of documents to be presented is a courtesy. It is also extremely helpful to the parties and to the Chamber. So if that could be done between now and tomorrow morning, that would be appreciated. The President wants me to spend the last few minutes of this afternoon asking first the prosecutors and then the lead co-lawyers if the current estimates of the time remaining for each party to present their documents is still 1 day for the prosecutors and half a day for the lead co-lawyers. Then we will move on to some other scheduling matters.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Your Honor. As far as we are concerned, we will not go beyond the 1 day allocated to us. It will be somewhat shorter than 1 day. Thank you.
John, as for our part, we will not present any documents in relation to the role of the accused. Thank you.
So you do not require that half day that has currently been allocated to you. Is that the situation?
That is correct.
Thank you. Well, during this afternoon, the Nguyen Chia defence team has asked for additional time to allow it to prepare to respond to the key document presentation, particularly by the prosecutors. The Chamber does not accept the premise on which the request was made, namely that there has been an extension of the scope of the trial. Nonetheless, the documents have been extensive in number and no doubt contain issues that both defence teams wish to have more time to explore. And the Chamber is prepared to defer the response to the key document presentations made by both the prosecutors and the lead co-lawyers for a period of 1 week. In other words, it will now begin on the 8th of July. The next week will then be filled with witnesses. They are remaining witnesses and witnesses from the additional list that the trial chamber announced at the trial management meeting. That will begin on Monday morning. This requires some organisation on the part of WESU, and so I cannot tell you yet which witnesses they will be, but we will make that announcement sometime tomorrow or at the latest on Friday. So that is now the proposed schedule, and unless there is any major issue with any of that, then that will be the trial chamber's decision on the Nguyen Chia defence request and generally on rescheduling. Thank you, President. Does that cover everything?
The President, yes, and thank you. Now, it is already the appropriate moment for the adjournment of the day, and the Chamber will adjourn, and the next session will be resumed by tomorrow at 9 a.m. During tomorrow's sessions, the Chamber will be hearing the presentation of the key documents being presented by parties to the proceedings, and we would like this information to be well informed to the public and parties concerned. Security personnel are now directed to bring Mr. Khieu Samphan and Nuon Chea to the detention facility and have them return to the courtroom by 9 a.m., saving Mr. Nuon Chea, who is directed to bring to only his holding cell where he can observe the proceedings from there through audio visual link. The court is adjourned.